Hello and welcome to another Lord of the Rings Rise to War video. I am the player who plays as the Witch King under the mountain, and today I'm going to be doing something a little bit rogue, because you don't see a lot of this from people who stream the game. I'm actually going to play the game for sort of 25 minutes and very painstakingly talk through what I'll be doing. So at the moment we still have the resource buff for another 3 or 4 hours. I'm going to see if I need to train any troops because I've not been on for a few hours today. I've got plenty of tiles open, so hopefully we'll take a few tiles. I'll show you how I sweep on the side. And hopefully we'll get in a couple of fights, but they are quite sparse at the minute. So my market's pretty healthy. I can trade resources pretty well at sort of 100 to 80, so I'm not really too fussed about what type of tiles I take. I understand under the new system, some people are a little bit more fussy now to make sure they get a good balance, but I'm not too fussed if that's the trade value, because you tend to be able to pick up stone tiles better than most anyway, because and my barracks is actually full. Hallelujah. That goes to show you how little fighting there's been this season though so far for me. Just to talk you through the barracks while I'm in here, I suppose. Most of these guards of the tower have come from conversion because this is the Kings of Men season. I've still got 50 militia. I'll probably get rid of them shortly. I've got 3,000 swans waiting for when we actually fight something. I've got 5,500 catters, and I have 759 knights, which are obviously the most valuable troop in the game. I've got some mountain trolls because I feel like they're going to be quite useful for taunting when we're in battle, so I'm not just using cavalry. My plan is to use sort of both kind of formations as best I can, so I'll run 2 formations. Probably one with cav, one with infantry, and try and counter whatever's coming at me now that you can actually see what's there. What could I build here that's probably going to be useful? So I could do with this, but I don't think I've got anywhere near enough resources. I'll probably have enough resources later on. I could revamp that, but realistically I'm not actually building too many field barracks at the moment. I do plan on at some stage. Storage upgrade's always good, not that I'm not spending resources at the moment, but we are going to try and take some resources while we're on, I suppose. So where are we in the power rankings now? We've dropped down because we opened up some slots so I could actually build a relocation pad. I won't say where that's to at this stage because it'll be quite important, I suppose. And we're currently in 23rd, I think that was, so I will try and adjust that throughout the day. So we are getting a little bit of PvP over at this crossing. I will talk through that in a moment. I haven't got as many hits there as I'd like as the main actions at the other crossing, but people are just, any hit that looks like it's coming in, people are clambering over each other to basically get some kind of hit. So I'm going to go to my second formation that's currently wearing my gear, and I'm going to send it at one of the tiles that I've already marked, praying that I haven't got pins on here that are visible. There we go. And here we go. So we're going to occupy this, and we are using eagles to sort of tile farm at the moment, just for the simple reason that if I didn't do this, I would never reach a tile below, well, beyond a 90, because inside the regions there are just no tiles left. So 6 minutes of dramatic music pending, just to show where I'm at. So this is my gear, and I switch it between 2 groups of people. So this is, like I say, my B team. I know I've gone through this before, so I have this equipment for the Witch King as I run him in this damage build, and I'm hoping this will get up to level 5 soon, and I do plan on using some Fell Beasts hopefully to sort of get rid of that initiative, which might help against Saurons who are trying to steal White Council and things like that from formations. So that's kind of the plan there. Shadow's also in this formation. If anyone would like to buy me a Palantir with Perseverance, that'd be really nice. I'd probably take a fine smoking pipe with Perseverance at this point, really, or anything really with Perseverance that got damage stat on, but you know, beggars can't be choosers. He's got decent attack. Sauron shares his gear with Gandalf the White, hence it's this set where it's a little bit of initiative, a little bit of command, lots of focus, kind of a mixed bag, trying to a middle ground really. I probably wish actually that I'd built a higher command set, but just say Shadow shares his gear with Bjorn, and the Witch King shares his gear with Skalhelm. And the other one in this B team is Gimli, who shares his gear with Dane Ironfoot. Bit of talk about this. I like this chess piece because it gives some decent focus while also giving some decent attack. It also gives a little bit of unit defense. I personally think this is the best chess piece in 2.0 of 2.0 gear for Gimli. And it works okay on Dane. It's a little bit more attack than the Warborn. Not quite as much attack as some other stuff, like the Buddha Belly piece, the Berserker's Raiment, but I don't really want Dane wandering around with his chest out or Gimli wandering around with his chest out. Hence, I use that piece for aesthetics, I suppose, more than anything else. And then I've got the Drums of Barad-dûr again, because this is a piece shared with Gimli, so it gets his focus nice and high, nice and early. It just happens that it made a sharp blade set, which made me sort of go against that rather than the Palantir. The helmet's basically because of unit defense. I think the unit defense does help, even though Bjorn loses troops, for example, a lot more than Dane, it seems. I do think this helps. So if I look at this fight earlier on, where I very fortunately only got half of this guy because he is an absolute brute, his formation's worth more than my house, I would hazard a guess. His B formation's probably worth more than a couple of family members as well. So just to go through, as you can see, Bjorn loses a lot more troops, similar sort of damage, but I do think this unit defense massively helps. You're just keeping some troops alive, and it's a bit of a no-brainer. I'm fairly lucky with the commanders that I've got. You know, the respect levels and the gear is quite good, but if you... It's probably a little bit more than quite good, to be fair, but if you look at this guy's gear, it is something of outrage and looks like a secret dev. So he's got a Zenith 11 Thorin. I imagine at this point anything that's Zenith 11 with that kind of gear is going to cause a lot of problems for people. I reckon that could be Agzok or anyone, and it still causes a lot of damage. Helps that it's got the might set as well. It's just nasty. This is the chess piece I was talking to you about. Obviously, he doesn't mind Thorin having his gut out, but to be fair, out of the dwarfs, he's probably one of the sort of more toned ones, so I guess that's probably okay as far as it goes. And he has got the unique, not so lucky on the rolls, because it looks like he doubled up Commander HP. Moving on to his Gandalf the White. Similar to me, actually, I suppose, apart from the set effect, but that's because he's trying to get some damage out of his Gandalf. And that's why he's running the Fine Smoking Pipe. I could run this, to be honest, something very similar anyway. But I just kind of, I think my Gandalf's there for defense. I'm not a Zenith 11 Gandalf the White, so that's why he's there. This is his Bjorn, which is, again, absolutely ridiculous. Another great set of gear. This is interesting that he runs this with the defense piece. I would love to know if that's the reason why, to try and keep Bjorn's troops alive a little bit more. Other than that, he's stacked attack, which is what you'd expect. Again, interesting that he's running this as the level 10 skill rather than Andrew and Chieftain, which I actually think is probably the better level 10 skill because of the bleed taking effect 4 times. But I'm not going to teach this guy how to play. He clearly knows what he's doing, so and so does his bank account. Again, amazing Dane set, Zenith 11 Dane. Yeah, it's just it's a special formation, and you can see why he's already level 43 from PvP. He's been chewing through armies like nobody's business, and that's kind of why we are where we are. Sauron's took that 200 fairly cleanly. I mean, it's probably a few more eagles than what I'd like to lose, but at the moment this is literally the only way I can farm higher level tiles around here. The mechanics for flying units are actually a little bit broken, I would say, as far as it goes. Someone's already took this one. I won't be trying to take any red tiles along the way. I'll just be trying to find something else that maybe we could take before we start going into 150s. So I would like to try and get my production up a little bit higher, because particularly while the buff's running, I think it's good to get extra bits in where you can. Probably have a look at that report in a minute. The only tiles really left, even over here, I'd really like one of these, is stone tiles. Let me just have a look north, because there's probably, if there's going to be any, it'll be up here somewhere. And the answer to that question is no. So, I mean, you know, look, it's not the end of the world. We'll just start heading into 150s, I think, where hopefully we'll lose a few less troops and everyone wins in that regard. So start having a look around. We haven't had any war as of yet with LGFZ, which is quite nice, and has meant that at the moment, at least, a lot of these tiles are fairly safe. That's out of range. This is the new joys of trying to find your range. Even when you think you've got eagles, you think you're okay. It doesn't necessarily turn out that way. Hopefully these are in range. There we go. So we've got something that's effortless, which it should be at this stage. We're just going to take a couple of 150s in the background. The mini-map's quite handy up here, to be fair, but I really want to go around taking these and starting a war, but that's probably a really bad idea, so I won't be doing that. Let's just mark these as red. While this is going on, what I'd probably normally be doing is I would be back at my base and I would be coming up with one of my sweeping formations. So at this stage, I'm using these guys all for siege, and I'm just helping level them up, really. This is my third formation with Gandalf. It's quite a handy little reinforce button there. These guys, I think, have all got gear on from before. He says, I better check, because otherwise it seems if you do walk around without gear on, you get absolutely melted, even by tiles. And the answer to the question is no, they haven't got gear on. Great. So I'll just add some gear back in. Ah, it's because Saruman had it. Okay, fair enough. It doesn't need to be anything special just for tiling like this, but perhaps actually Gandalf wasn't running that set. He was running probably this set of alerts, I would guess. I'm not really too fussed what sets they use for this sort of sweeping, so I'll start stealing some stuff off different people, which is more annoying down the line because you end up getting 3 pieces of gear on one person and 2 pieces of gear on another, and that is just very frustrating. So in my third formation as well was Dwalin, who needs some kind of attack gear, so we'll probably take Elrond's gear. Moving gear around now that it hasn't got any restrictions is actually pretty good, really. It just takes a little bit of the commander health off, which they recovered pretty quickly, so I'm not going to complain about that. It's allowed me to basically play 2 formations, which I can switch gear between. As long as I don't have them on the same tile, it's pretty good. Isildur is running a protection set. Sorry, not protection set. It's a thick armor set. Because he is my tank in this formation. And changing gear over now, it doesn't take that long. I mean, it's a little bit frustrating, but it doesn't actually take that long. What thick armor piece? There we go. I don't mind putting on strength and golds on people either, because I do think that in comparison to the purple gear, they're actually pretty good. I'm trying to remember who else is actually in this formation before I go running at a tile and testing myself to see if I can actually put gear on before I get there. It is Saruman, the person who I've just took gear off. Great. As you can see, I mean, as a game, it can be a little bit clunky sometimes. But I don't mind it. It's just a little bit frustrating. I'm trying to get my Saruman up to sort of R5-ish. I do think he's playable at R3 and his damage is pretty good. But I've seen some do sort of crazy damage really. So generally with these guys I can probably sweep 30 level mobs. I think this is a 35. I could probably just about get away with that, but better off sweeping 30s I think. And you have to hit March to sweep now, so while these guys are walking, let's go back to Sauron. And we're just going to take a few more 150s with Sauron. I don't mind taking 150s and sort of 130s at this stage because any increase to your production is pretty good. He only lost one eagle, I think, there. And if you look at the actual difference between the tile levels, so this is 1,000 per hour, and a 150 is 880, I think. So it's 120 less resources per hour. Ideally, I'd like 200s, but we can't have it all, as people keep telling us all. So for now, 150s are good. But we've had to travel halfway to Narnia to actually get to the 150s, which is a little bit frustrating. So that's going on over there. Gandalf's walking over here. We'll probably show you the crossing where all the PvP is while this is going on. So if I just hit the map, that's here, where it's literally pins galore. And here we go. So, try not to get too many pins on here, but there's lots of stuff going on up here. And this is where pretty much the main fights are going on. And it's been pretty good. I haven't really been at that crossing. But that's where most of the fighting's been this season so far. It's got a really good pin on it. It's about 8 million. Meanwhile, we'll just keep occupying tiles, and hopefully, after we took a few more, we've actually moved up in the production rankings. I do like to try and keep myself in the top 20. I think if you're going to try and fight all season, you do need to keep yourself up this way. The more resources you have, the easier it is to replace your troops. I don't see an issue with that. I know some people say, oh, you're farming, but at the moment, realistically, there isn't really a great deal else we can do anyway. So what I'll do is I'll probably use a pool of Sauron's stamina. And we'll go from there. So Gandalf has destroyed that mob without taking too many losses. Let's throw him at a 35 and see how he gets on with that. Oh, that's a 20. That's also a 20. With this game, you can pretty much take it as sort of slow-paced or fast-paced as you like sometimes, to be honest. Particularly when it comes to mobs and just sort of day-to-day bits and bobs that you have to do in the game, because unless you're literally on the front lines all the time, you can chill out a little bit and, you know, take the game at your own pace. So Gandalf's walking again. You can see under the new march mechanics, he just decides it's not a straight line anymore. He's going to walk across here. Meanwhile, Sauron's took another 150. And we're up to 194 already out of 206 tiles. We'll take a few more. The other thing that is quite fun, which I've seen a lot of people do in the last few days, and I can probably show you from here, is people have been sending eagle armies, because we can't get through this pass because it's just a stupid amount of siege and sort of 60 armies. You can't get through it quickly, and where they are situated, there isn't really an easy way through, but you can send eagles across here and say hit this fort, and if that's got a siege in it, you're just getting a nice easy win. So people have been kind of doing that back and forth, and you'll see some eagles knocking around. Some people have been using them as scouts. So that's been pretty fun. I would really like to have shown you some PvP in this video, but I just don't think we're gonna get it, sadly. So it's more of a hi, this is Farmville for at least another 3 more tiles. But I do think it's key in this game now with the way that Siege is. You do kind of have to level up as sort of fast as you can with your formation. So that 35 has done a lot more damage to Gandalf, so I'll probably drop him to 30s, otherwise that's probably a waste of troops. Just to give you a feel for how the game kind of is, we don't want to occupy it, because if I occupy the tile I won't sweep the mob, so we want to march. And we'll use Gandalf again. After I finish with Gandalf's stamina, I will switch to using one of the other 2 formations, like the Gothmog one, which is really my real siege formation, as he's one of the few commanders now that's actually got a siege buff in front of him. And we've got a surprise. Happy days. As you can see, a lot of people have took 60s around here, and I do get it. Resources are sparse if you don't want to travel long distances to find them. It has made it a little bit more difficult, particularly with the march times. I mean, there's been times this season where I've been marching for 3 hours just to get to a fort, which by the time I've got there, most of the tiles have already disappeared. Bit ridiculous, really. But everyone loves to farm. So again, I could use a search to find 150s, but at the moment they're pretty obvious that they're everywhere. So I've got 1 more of these I can take, and I'm losing a few eagles as I go along. Not too many, but I am losing a few. But I had got a full barrack, so I'm not really again too fussed about that. Just to look at the fellowship production while that's going on, we're currently in 4th. I think these guys haven't managed to actually fight anyone yet, because I think they're struggling to actually get to each other to sort of fight. And to be fair, both of these have gone up quite a bit today, so they've clearly had a bit of a farming day. This is what I mean about these mechanics now, and the passes in particular. They just stop sort of open warfare, it seems, which is a little bit silly. I think if they'd have just made crossings, particularly in the middle, once you got through the outside pass, I think if we'd have just had some normal crossings along the way that maybe we could have battled at, I think it would probably been better for the season so far. But we're getting there. We're only 10 days or so in, so I'm sure there'll be plenty of PvP and plenty of actual really good fighting along the way. But for now, it's quite a slow burner this season. It's been a lot of fun, but it's quite a slow burner. Again, we're just keeping up those marches and making sure we use stamina as best we can, because if you're only going to play for sort of half an hour in a day, you need to do the most you can, really. Now what I might do in a moment is I'm probably likely to recall Sauron to my base, and I'm likely to send another commander over here who can take 150s. Probably, it might be the Gothmog formation actually, or I might use the rest of Gandalf's formation to come over and take these, because I'd like to have it so that I haven't got any 130s in my tiles, and then I'd like to try and push 150s out over a period of time. So where are we now? So I've got 15 130s left. I would suspect by the end of this evening I probably won't have them anymore. And it's just to make sure my powers increase more than anything else. The quicker I can unlock the more tiles, the faster I get resources in general. So yes, I might not get the true economies of scale. I don't think he's got any stamina left for this. Yeah, he hasn't. So I'll recall Sauron. Yeah, I might not get the true economies of scale on the tile benefit, because I'm sort of trading 880s, and if I was using the 130s I'd probably get more resources out of it. But in the same sort of manner as that, the faster I get my power up, the faster I can Sorry, distracted. Apparently can't multitask. Ah, game crashed. Bad when the game crashes. It's done that a lot more since 2.0. I think it's the graphics that sort of kills it, really. However, we'll hopefully be right back. He says. Okay, we're back. I don't know why the graphic update has made BlueStacks run really slowly at times. I mean, I've had to mess around with the performance just to get it to the point of where we are now. If that happened when I was about to be hit by an army, I would be seething and try and work out what I was doing. Or if I was in the middle of swapping gear, I'd probably have to swap to my phone. However, thankfully, we're just chilling out, so hopefully we'll get straight back into the game. Terrible for those first few seconds. I do like the ring though on the starting screen, to be fair. Okay, so miraculously the settlement will appear in a minute, I reckon. There we go. So Sauron's on his way home. I'll probably speed recall him after I finish what I'm doing here, just so I can send the army straight back out. But the plan is basically to get as many resources as I can and the power up as high as I can, so I can utilize. Let's get some more grain in here, I think, and some more ore. If we're going to create troops, you always need ore. Utilize the buffs in the ring so I can start going into things like increase resources by a certain percentage and things like that. The faster you can get those up, I think the better. So I'll probably just build a few more eagles. Haven't built many today, so probably not a bad idea. Eagles frustrate me in the neutral units because you just end up spending hours getting them in, which is pretty annoying, to be honest. So Gandalf's took another tile. Sorry, swept another mob. We'll probably sweep another 30 with him for now, and then I will recall him. We've started building roads here. I'll talk about roads in a second. So if I march. The road features a new feature. You get an increased march speed, and the actual tiles, considering they start off as 1 tiles, then become level 28 armies, which are pretty beastly. I only worked that out the other day when I hit one with a Paffer and got completely wrecked. So you can send people out to kind of like build a road. I think you might get a little bit of contribution for it. I'm not entirely convinced, but I haven't actually done it yet, which is me being lazy more than anything else. 30 mobs are definitely the sweet spot with Gandalf in this formation at the moment. Most of my others I'm kind of using 25s. See if this makes it crash again. No, we're good. You're still getting quite good tips from sweeping mobs generally. I don't seem to get many XP tips at the moment. I don't really know why that is, but that's that. But yeah, so that's that was half an hour of actually playing the game. I don't know if we've got anyone near here who could maybe want to fight just quick before we go any further. I don't think there's anyone guarding the pass, which is a little bit sad. So what I'll probably do is I'll move Gandalf to there, and I'll swap my gear back onto him. And this is kind of how long it takes to swap gear. It's a little bit slower on BlueStacks than it is in on my phone. But you can build macros for this on BlueStacks, I've been told, which I'm probably going to look into, because otherwise it's literally point and click and you have to kind of remember where your pieces are. So if you think if someone's marching at you, I mean, if you're trying to switch gear like this, you probably need about a minute, which is feasible but also stressful. So let's see. I was doing this at the start while walking at tiles, which made it really stressful when I hadn't got a great deal of troops. Bjorn with Shadows gear. I've given Dane probably my best physical damage gear set, which arguably I probably shouldn't, because he's going to do more damage than Bjorn anyway, really. Although I do think if Bjorn's pushed high enough, I think he will do more damage than Dane, just because of his skill set. But that's something to find out somewhere along the way. So we've nearly switched the entire formation's gear, because we don't want to stand on that crossing waiting to be hit without doing this, because that would be a disaster. There we go. That's the gear switch, just like that. Then levels, for those who don't really know, I suppose, levels only go up 3 at a time now. You get a new skill. Dwalin and his fall from grace, just while we're in here. I mean, he's still got Durin's Blood, which is a great skill, probably the best damage skill in the game, I would argue. And he's still got Experienced Warrior, which this stacking skill is pretty neat. But then his third tree lets him down a little bit, because troops are just not doing anything at the moment. I mean, as far as a troop buff skill goes, it's pretty good, and if you mixed him with a Falcon early game and probably run Adventurer, I imagine you'd see some quite positive results. Musician isn't terrible, but again, it's a lot of points for just some unit defense and some healing, which, even though healing's been tried to be fixed, it's not really fixed at this stage. So we're going to stand here, I think, and wait for a couple more hits. I mean, we've got a few hits today from on that crossing, but there's nothing major. I mean, I showed you the one originally. This was just the second one that I hit with the rest of my army, because I wasn't actually online at the time. And again, some pretty decent gear. I do think it's hard to actually get a comparison of where people are with gear now. This is interesting, because I would not run Sauron like that. I would run the enemy before anything else, just so I can counter the other people. Because from what I've seen of Sauron's actual damage, I don't think it's that impressive. And if you put 1 point in here, you still get the stun anyway. Same as in this, so I just kind of put a point in both of these, and I'm going to try and max out this after I've maxed out the Deceiver. So for me, I don't think his damage, I mean, considering he's tried to run a little bit of a damage build in there, that's not a great deal of damage. I get that I've swamped him, but I'd argue I would let these two do the damage and get Sauron in a support role. That's a nice shadow, though. Again, I'd probably get 1 point in Black Numenorian, just for the simple reason that you are destroying White Council stacks with this extra attack. But each to their own, I guess. I mean, apart from that, I don't think we've really got a great deal of hits. I've just been sweeping all day. This is another couple of hits from earlier on. Again, like I say, I think it's pretty hard to work out what's good gear these days with 2.0, because it's allowed people to sort of solidify their account if they've wanted to. And that was just the balance of it, really. I do like people using Gil in these formations, but I think if you're going to use Gil, I mean, this might just be to what troops they got left. I would argue that you run the Tower Guard on Gil and use the 3 Elven units on the other commanders, so they can just get on with dealing damage while he tanks with some decent command gear, using, say, the Kingly Kin skill, so that you're making the evasion worthwhile. I'd also be maxing out High King before going into Alliance Leader, I think. But that's just me, again. But I'd certainly be running the tank unit on Gil and 3 elf units on these guys. Probably elf ranged as well, just so they're in the background. Skalhelm and Bjorn tend to have a habit of dying off a little bit before everyone else, but like I say, I think that's because of unit defense. But that's about all it is, really. So that was kind of like a, I don't know, 40-minute run through of just playing the game for a little bit. I don't think people actually show people playing the game very often, which I find a little bit weird. But even though this was kind of more Farmville, I'm hoping that we'll get some PvP soon, and I can probably get some decent stuff recorded and kind of go from there. So with that, that's pretty much everything I've got today. I'm going to try and max out my tiles over the next couple of hours. But yeah, so I hope you have a good time, and if in doubt with this game, as always follow your nose.